What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Fanatics MMA podcast. I am James Lynch. He is JHK. If you haven't watched the show before, we preview an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, we're going to be looking at the December 18th welterweight fight between Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Belal Muhammad. We're going to be doing the breakdown. After the breakdown, we'll do a Q&A, and then we'll also give our underdog picks for the UFC Vegas 44 card, which goes down this Saturday in Las Vegas. Also, make sure you download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. That's what we're going to be referring to today, and we'll have our picks on there as well, so make sure you go in there. It's the best app when it comes to picking fights. And lastly, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You got to subscribe to the channel to submit questions. That's all the housekeeping out of the way here for today. Let's get to this fight. The All-Star always doing a great job when it comes to getting these upcoming fights ready to go. So again, you look at it here. This fight's going to be taking place Saturday, December 18th, like we mentioned. Let's look at the tail of the tape. Well, actually, before we look at the tail of the tape, how did we get here? Well, we got here because Stephen Wonderboy Thompson lost to Gilbert Burns. He lost decisively. So that takes him out of the picture in the contenders picture at welterweight, in my opinion. So for him, it's about keeping active. It's about getting a bounce back fight. And Belal Muhammad is coming off a win over Damian Maia. Got the win, but I don't think he really blew anyone away with that performance. So I think it's a fight to kind of figure out where both guys fit. Does Wonderboy still have as a contender, as someone that can still beat guys that are sort of in the fringe of the welterweight sort of mid-tier pack? And for Belal Muhammad, this is an opportunity for him to break through here. You know, he's had a few opportunities before against Vicente Luque years ago, against Jeff Neal. He hasn't been able to come through. He did pass the Maia test in his last fight, but can he get by a guy like Wonderboy? That is the big question. So I'll be honest, I was surprised to see this fight just because of the fact that I think for Wonderboy, he's still got a little bit of name value here. I think, you know, I figured they would have given him someone that they were trying to build up. Maybe Belal's the guy they're trying to build up. I don't know, but this matchup kind of came out of left field. We knew that Thompson was going to fight on December 18th, but we just didn't know who was against. I figured, you know, Chimaev even might have been a good option. I've argued that before as to why I think that's a good idea. But yeah, a little bit surprising, but at the same time, rankings-wise, it's a good opportunity for both guys to break through. So, John, before we get into this, just your thoughts on the fight itself and how this all came together.
It's all on Muhammad. Like, it's all him. You know what I mean? Like, this is the opportunity. It's almost like the Leon Edwards fight, right? He stepped up on short notice to, you know, take that fight. It didn't work out for him, and he got a win after that. Now they're rewarding him again, allowing him to maybe get into that contender spot. You know what I mean? Because Wonderboy's ranked number 5. If you beat the number 5 guy, you know, that could put you in the number 5 spot, right? If it's convincingly. So it's all on Belal Muhammad, man. If he can come through, it's a massive, massive opportunity.
And there you see at the tail of the tape here, Thompson, 38 years old. That's one thing we always talk about with Stephen Thompson is the age, but you know, I know his last fight, I wouldn't say age was a factor in that. I think he just had a bad game plan. I literally don't think he thought Gilbert Burns was going to try and take him down. I think that was a bit of a surprise to him. So again, I don't think age is showing in any way in Thompson, but he's 38. Belal's still 33. Like, he's not super young. You know, when you think of Belal, I think you think of him being a little bit younger, but 33 is kind of like you're in the prime of your career at that point. You see there, what's actually interesting is Belal has more fights than Stephen Thompson does. He has 23 compared to 22. Part of that's been injuries, especially the last couple of years. Thompson's had some huge gaps in between fights. That is where the age has caught up to him. Like, he hasn't been as healthy as I'm sure he'd like to be. So again, Belal has more fights. Stephen Thompson has 16 wins. Belal has 19 wins. But if you look at the opposition, I think you would argue that Thompson has fought better guys. Thompson's got 5 losses. Belal's got 3 losses. Thompson's got 7 wins by knockout. 4 wins by knockout for Belal Muhammad, although recently you haven't seen Thompson have a finish in quite some time. Both have 1 submission win apiece. The finish rate is 50% for Stephen Thompson, 27% for Belal Muhammad. And Thompson's going to be bigger in this fight. He is 6 feet tall compared to just 5'11", with a 71-inch reach for Belal Muhammad, 75-inch reach for Stephen Thompson. As we look here on the bout page, let's take a closer look at this as well. You look at the odds right now, it does have Stephen Thompson as about a almost 3-1 favorite, which I understand. You know, we'll get into that a little bit later in the show, but let's look at Thompson first. Like I mentioned, lost to Gilbert Burns, beat Jeff Neal, which was an important fight. That was a similar fight to this one where they were saying, okay, is Neal the real deal? Neal fights, gets completely shut out by Wonderboy. I mean, that was just 2 fights ago. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that Wonderboy did have a very good win over Jeff Neal. Beat Luque by decision. Last time I checked, Vicente Luque was the backup fighter for the welterweight title fight last month, earlier this month at UFC 268. So that's a really good win as well. That was in New York. Mind you, that was back in 2019, right? It wasn't that long ago. The Pettis loss, you know, I hate to say this, but there is such a thing as Hail Marys in the UFC. That was a Hail Mary fight for Anthony Pettis because Thompson was beating the crap out of him. And then out of nowhere, Pettis knocks out Stephen Thompson. Like, Thompson's never been finished in the UFC. And just for Pettis of all people to do it, it's just been crazy. So that was just a weird fight. I don't think you can chalk up too much of that. And then the Darren Till fight, I thought he beat Darren Till. It was in the UK. It was a fight that I think Thompson, maybe not his best performance, but still, I thought he did enough to get it done here. So he lost that fight. So, I mean, realistically, yes, the Burns fight is really the only fight where we're like, okay, he clearly lost that. Obviously, the Pettis fight, he was finished as well. But, some of these fights, he could really be just, one loss in his last 4 or one loss in his last 3, type thing. So, again, I don't put too much stock into some of those losses for Thompson. But you look at the level of opposition overall, Thompson has clearly fought the better fighters, including welterweight champion at the time, Tyron Woodley. He fought him twice. So Thompson's been at the top of the heap. 38 years old, though. You got to wonder at some point, when will we see the decline? We talk about the injuries, but what about the fight style? Could it be this fight? It might be. We'll have to see. But John, just your thoughts on Stephen Thompson, what he brings to the table at 38 years of age.
Man, I don't think you could put the age as something as a disadvantage for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You know what I mean? Because his fight style, he doesn't really take too much damage. You know what I mean? He did take heavy shots against Tyron Woodley, and if you look at his other fights, when he lost, yes, he got knocked out by Pettis, but the Darren Till fight, not much damage taken. He got knocked down at the final round, and maybe that's what won Darren Till the fight. The Gilbert Burns fight, really, there was not much there, right, as in damage that he's taken. So it's like he takes these fights that are gatekeeper fights, he wins them, and then he gets a contender fight, and he loses them. So it's kind of like he's in that pattern, right? But I don't think that he's on the decline at all. I think he's still one of the best welterweights in the world. He just needs the opportunities to go out there and perform. And you mentioned it, inconsistency. He hasn't fought very much. Like, this is his second fight in 2021, right? In 2020, He fought once. 2019, he fought twice. 2018, once. 2017, he fought twice. And if you go down the line, he was a little bit more active earlier in his career with the UFC, especially, when he was fighting Tyron Woodley and then Masvidal. But I still think Thompson is one of the best in the world. I don't think his skills have declined. I don't think his speed has declined. I don't think his fight IQ has declined. Nothing. I think that he's still able to beat some of the best guys. The last fight, Gilbert Burns just had a great game plan, man. Like, he went in there and he didn't want to stand there and trade, because a lot of guys, I think they get stuck and kind of mesmerized by Thompson, and it allows Thompson to do what he wants to do. Gilbert Burns didn't do that. He was a lot smarter, and Gilbert Burns had to win that fight, no matter what, you know what I mean? And he just went in there to win, not really to finish or to put on the show. So with Thompson, all the people saying that he's washed, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that either. Let's look at Belal Muhammad here. Remember the name. Undefeated in his last 5 fights, I guess. You have to look even further back if we have the Tapology open, but you can see they're 33 years old, coming off the win over Damian Maia in a fight that people thought he was going to win that fight. I don't think people felt like Maia had enough left in the tank at this point. Maia's in his 40s right now, and it was his last fight in the UFC. So I think that, while it looks good on the resume, a Damian Maia win now as opposed to a Damian Maia win even a few years ago looked a little bit better. So can't take too much away from that. The Leon Edwards fight was just a weird fight, kind of like, I was referring to Pettis and Thompson. That kind of reminds me of the Leon Edwards fight, because I don't think Belal looked great, but it's tough to say that because the fight was so short, right? He got poked in the eye. It was unfortunate the way that happened. I want to remind people that the reason Belal got that fight was because Khamzat Chimaev was out of the matchup, and so Belal was the only welterweight available to take it. This idea that we needed to do a rematch off that, I don't agree with that, because the whole reason Belal got the fight was circumstantial. Got to win over Diego Lima. What is Diego Lima at this point? Lyman Good, same deal, has barely fought Takashi Sato. Like, it's good that he's going on this winning streak, and it's good that he's beating these guys, and it's certainly, obviously helping his case to get a fight like this, but these aren't great wins. Like, if we're being honest, like, if you look at the resume of Thompson, you look at the resume of Belal, it's completely different. Thompson would probably finish some of these guys, to be honest. Sato, Diego Lima, we've seen Diego Lima knocked out before. So again, Belal's doing what he has to do. I just don't think he's doing anything. Like, had he gone out there and finished Maia in the first round, had Belal Muhammad done what Gilbert Burns did to Damian Maia, then we'd be having a different conversation about this fight. But to me, it's like, Belal's getting the win. That's great, but it's not like anything that's really making me think like, okay, this is a guy that could be a title challenger. That's why this fight's so important to Belal Muhammad. We talked about it there. Again, been pretty consistent. You look at the activity here. This is going to be his 4th fight this year, which is great. So obviously the activity level goes to him as well. And a guy that's, has only really had one bad fight. If you think about it, the Luque fight, which was quick, he got finished at UFC 205. I mean, that was back in 2015. So, in general, this is a pretty durable welterweight for the most part, and a guy that can go out there and get it done. I mentioned the height and reach. One of the things I've always wondered about Belal is, could he make 155? Because he is a little undersized for the weight class. And Thompson's maybe on the bigger side or the leaner side of 170. We'll see if that's a factor in this fight, to see if he's able to get in on the inside. I'm not sure he'll be able to, but again, this is a guy that is, just getting by and getting these wins, but he's not doing so impressively. So I don't know, like, if you were to pick Belal, and not that I'm going to spoil my pick here, but if Belal was to win this, like, I don't think it would be a finish, because the evidence, at least from here, has shown that he typically does not get finishes. Got a submission win over Sato. Maybe if he gets Wonderboy to the ground, we'll see. But just your thoughts on Belal Muhammad and what he brings to the table in this fight.
Belal Muhammad, when I think about his career so far in the UFC, I look at him as like a construction worker, a guy that goes to the construction site, does his job, works hard, not really talented in one aspect of the game, but he just can do everything really decent. You know what I mean? And that wins him all the fights, right? If you look at it, he's just got decision wins over Lyman Good. And I went back and watched all his fights from this year, because he's fought 3 times already, right? And he's been poked in the eye every fight. He got poked in the eye by Lima, and you saw what happened in the Edwards fight, and he got poked in the eye by Maya. So what does that tell you? That means that Belal Muhammad, he marches forward, you know what I mean? And these guys are out there putting their hands out, and he's running into the fingers, right? So he's really good at pressuring guys and moving forward and mixing it up. But he's just not like putting it all together to where he's getting finishes. And that's what the UFC wants to see, right? That's what the organization wants to see. That's what the fans want to see. That's what we want to see, to show everybody that you're capable of going up there to the highest level and beating guys. And he had a chance against Leon Edwards, right? But he was getting cooked in that fight, right? Before that eye poke, to be honest, right? So this is his second opportunity, right? You don't get many of these. So he needs to go out there and do, he needs to show us a different level of himself, right? Because I don't think we've seen the best of Belal Muhammad yet, because he's still only 33, right? And it's not too old. You know what I mean? He's facing a guy that's 38, and I just said that, he's still one of the best guys in the world. So I still have faith in Belal to be better, and this is his opportunity against Wonderboy Thompson, a high-profile fight.
One other thing I'll mention before I give my pick on this fight is that Belal Muhammad is obviously a fan favorite. If you're on Twitter, everyone loves Belal Muhammad. His brother, or I shouldn't say his brother, he does a show with John Hynek's brother called Remember the Show. So that's another reason that, like, people are like behind him and stuff. And, I even saw John Hynek retweeting the odds. I posted the odds the other day from Bodog, and I saw him retweet that. So obviously he's a fan favorite. And that I think does play a role in people picking this fight, because, when the odds came out, people are like, oh, they're completely off, because Wonderboy's like almost a 2 to 3 to 1 favorite. I don't think the odds are off. I think if you look at the evidence here, unless you really believe that Thompson has lost a step, but again, the Burns fight was not like a case of where he got outstruck. He just got taken down. There is a way to beat Stephen Thompson. If Belal Muhammad can follow the Gilbert Burns game plan of just using his wrestling and taking Thompson down, then absolutely there's an opportunity for him to win this fight. But Belal's not really known for that. He's actually known as a striker. And to me, if this fight stays standing, I'm going Wonderboy all day in this fight, because he is the much better striker here. I know he doesn't get a lot of finishes, but still, he's got a very awkward style. And just ask a guy who Belal lost to, and Jeff Neal, he struggled a lot with Wonderboy and his reach and his range and everything else. So that's where I think this is where, we might as well get to our picks now. I like Stephen Thompson in this fight. Belal Muhammad would have to do something we haven't seen in any of his fights before, and that is just do something spectacular. Come out aggressive. Go for a takedown. Do something where you're taking Wonderboy out of his element and being able to figure out that style, and it's very difficult. The one thing I will say, and I don't even know if he's working with him this camp, but the way to beat Thompson, or someone that I think would be a good training partner for him leading into this fight, would be Anthony Pettis, because Pettis did beat him. I know I mentioned earlier how I think that's kind of like a fluke, but also Pettis has kind of he's got a different kind of striking style that is I think something that Thompson hasn't really faced before, right? Thompson's a karate guy. Pettis is similar in that aspect. So, but I don't think Belal is even doing that. I don't think he's at Rufus Sport anymore, as far as I know. Love to interview the guy. I can't, for obvious reasons, but I believe he's in Chicago training at his old team, the one that's at what's it called, Valley Flow. I think that's where he's training over there. So he's not even getting like the all-star training partners he had at Rufus Sport with Gerald Mershart and those guys. Maybe he is, but as far as what I can tell, he's not at Rufus Sport. So I think that's another disadvantage as well. And people talk about the wrestling in the Gilbert Burns fight. Stephen Thompson trains with a really good wrestler in Carl Reed. I don't know if you remember him. He was on Contender Series. Carl, I think, is now sort of semi-retired. He's now doing some work for Paradigm. But Carl Reed was an outstanding wrestler. He actually teaches wrestling at a local school as well. So, I'm sure that's something he's worked on. There's a lot of people saying, oh, Belal could go out and do what Gilbert Burns did. I don't know. Gilbert Burns is, I think, a lot better of a fighter than Belal Muhammad is. So I'm going to pick Stephen Thompson. I think he wins the decision. I think the line might be a little high, so maybe you go the Thompson by decision prop. I don't think he finishes Belal. Maybe he does, but it's only 3 rounds, right? It's not a 5-round fight. So I think Thompson can probably go out there and get it done. And to be honest, I might even wait to bet this fight a little bit later, because I think because people like Belal so much that they might start betting him in this fight and saying, oh, the line's crazy and all that, right? And I could see people going heavy on him leading up to the fight. So Thompson by decision is my pick. That's the prop bet I'm going to play as well. Who are you picking, JHK? How do you think this one goes?
You make a good point about Jeff Neal, and then another name that comes up is Vicente Luque, right? And I feel like Belal Muhammad, not the same level as Vicente Luque, but kind of a similar style, marching forward and throwing heavy shots, right? And then what he does that's different from Vicente is Belal does mix in takedowns from time to time when he needs to, right? Because I think he got rocked by Lyman Good, and then he was able to take him down and recover, right? So he's able to do that. But marching forward and throwing shots is not going to work against Thompson. Thompson loves that style. He pieced up Vicente Luque. That 3rd round, that was an amazing round for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, right? He knocked him down, I think, 3 times in that fight, right? And right now, Vicente Luque is next in line basically for the title, right? So I think Belal Muhammad, if he doesn't look at the Gilbert Burns fight and say, okay, I'm going to go in there and just pressure and just attach himself to the hips and to the cage and try to take him down and just try to burn him out with takedowns. If he doesn't do that first and then rely on his striking game later, I don't think he wins this fight. I think what's going to happen is what happened in the Vicente Luque fight is he's just going to go forward and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is going to have he's going to be in Disneyland, right? He's going to be in this playground, right? And that's what's going to happen. I think he finishes him 2nd, 3rd round with something really nasty, with something really slick. And we're going to see Wonderboy Thompson do that little side flip at the end of the fight. You know what I mean? What we love him for. That's my pick, man. I think Thompson's going to have a highlight reel finish in this fight.
Last thing I want to say before we move on to the questions here, I like Belal. I would love to see Belal break through here and get it done. And I think the UFC would as well, as you have a younger guy, someone that, like I said, has a good fan base. I think would be great for the division. But if he loses this fight, he's going to be in Michael Chiesa territory, which is where you've had your opportunities to move ahead and you haven't been able to persevere. And that's not a good spot to be in, because again, where do you go from here? Like I said, I wonder if Belal could make 155. I think that might be a better weight class for him just because he's kind of small for the division. But at the same time, if he wins here, then that moves on, and maybe we see a different version. That's the beautiful thing about fighting, is that, just because you see one thing over the last couple fights, you could see something different in a fight after the time spent in the gym. I bring up the Brian Ortega and the Korean Zombie example. There's a perfect example of that, of where someone was, able to really add some skills to the arsenal and come out and look a lot different than what you expect. So really good opportunity here for Belal. But again, I think, if Thompson looks anything close to what he looked like in the Vicente Luque fight, he wins this all day. So that's how I look at this. And I love you, Belal, but I just think this is not a good matchup for you against Thompson. That's all I'm going to say.
Stylistically, you're right, man. I would like to see Belal break through. This is a perfect opportunity. And hopefully he proves us wrong and goes out there and just puts on an incredible performance. And he starts 2022 as one of the top 5 fighters in the division. But I just don't see it, man. I just think Wonderboy is still one of the best in the world, and he could put it together easy.
Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We are going to get to questions right now. We'd like to stick it to this fight, but there's a lot going on in the MMA world. We're happy to answer everything else. Download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. And also go check out John's interview with Alex Volkanovski. I just saw that before we hopped on here, man. Great get, and always good to see you get big names like that. So go check that out on the All Stars YouTube channel, all right, how close are you to your goal right now? By the way, make sure if you're here, you're subscribed, obviously, if you're submitting questions, but spread the word, because we need to get to 1,000 subscribers. How close are we?
I think we're almost at 700. So 300
we can get
more.
there. We'll definitely get there before, at the very least before Christmas. We should be able to get there.
Yeah,
so let's keep it going, everyone. Daily content. No one does more interviews than John, except for maybe me. But other than that, there's Aldo. Honestly, if you want to compare notes, I think you've done more than me over the last little bit, because I've actually scaled back a tiny bit. But you've been killing it, man. You've been doing a good job. Okay, Antoine, Thanks for being patient, buddy. Always appreciate it. A regular here on the
Shout out
Fantasy
to
Fanatics MMA
Antoine, man. He's always the number one guy, number one question, man, every single time.
Yeah, he says, "What's up, John and James? Hope you guys are good. I wanted to know, who do you think the loser of this matchup fights? Do you think Khamzat could be a potential opponent for either guy?" No. Khamzat they're setting his sights higher than that. I still maintain this. And I know they haven't announced who he's going to fight next, but I think there's a reason you haven't seen Luque booked. I think there's a reason that Burns doesn't have his next opponent. I think they're trying to figure out what they want to do with Khamzat. I know Nate Diaz's name was thrown out there, but Khamzat is a commodity right now. There's very few commodities in MMA. Conor McGregor's a commodity. John Jones is a commodity. Khamzat Chimaev is now a commodity as well. These guys aren't commodities. Thompson's a great name. I think that I think they could have done the Thompson Chimaev matchup only from the sense of like, what are you really getting from Thompson at this point? I've talked about this before, but I think the fact they booked this tells me they're not going to do that fight. So no, I think if Chimaev fights someone, it'll be in the top 5. Look, they could, if they wanted Chimaev to stay active and it's not about the ranking, he would be fighting Neil Magny by now, right? I mean, let's get real here. That's pretty much, Magny beat Li Jingliang as well. That makes a lot of sense if we're going by the merit system, but we're not. Chimaev surpasses that. He's getting a top 5 guy or someone very notable next. And unfortunately, that doesn't fit the bill here. What do you think?
To me, I think there's 2 options for Chimaev, and I don't think that they should go with these options because he doesn't deserve those options. But the UFC, they love to push guys. I think it's Colby Covington or Gilbert Burns. I feel like Colby Covington, he's out there kind of being vocal about Chimaev, right? Kind of, throwing some shade at him. And I feel like that's going to escalate into something. And if they could build something off of that, the UFC will love it, right? Because Colby, he can sell a fight, right? And it seems like Chimaev can too. And they could go back and forth. They both can wrestle. And Colby's talking a lot, man. He's been pretty brash about like how he would dominate Chimaev. And I would love to see that fight. Anybody would, right?
I would too. Although I've said this before, you got to do the Masvidal fight. Like you have to do that fight first. At least if they don't do that, that's going to be like, because they missed the boat on Woodley and Covington. Like they did end up fighting, but it wasn't the same. It reminded me a lot of when Chuck and Vanderlei Silva fought. Like it wasn't the same when they fought after all those years. And I feel like they're almost doing this with Masvidal, and I really hope they don't. Obviously Colby would win that fight, but I just think the build up to it and there's so much going into it, I think would be very interesting. So there we go. So I don't think Khamzat will fight the winner here. I think the winner of this fight might fight Sean Brady, to be honest. I think that's a fight that could potentially make sense. They really seem to like Brady. Brady did stub his toe a little bit in that 3rd round against Chiesa, so we'll see how that goes. What are your early picks for Dariush Makhachev since it's official? The smallest favorite I've seen Islam open at -330. Did a video of this on my channel, which is doing quite well. Again, if you haven't been taking notes, anything Islam Makhachev related will do well for you if you're making any sort of content. And I said about it there, a lot of people, are passionate about Islam, and believe he's the future champion. A lot of people are upset he didn't get the fight for the title. So, a lot of people say that Islam's going to finish Dariush in the 1st round. I don't agree with that at all. Dariush is much better on the ground than Dan Hooker is. Dariush is very well rounded. Dariush is a guy that's overcome adversity, right? Remember the losses to like Ramsey Nijim or not Nijim. He lost to, he also lost to Alex Hernandez as well. No, there was a fight earlier. He got knocked out by someone. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. I feel like it was Nijim or someone. I forget. Yeah, it was. So. Okay. Memory's still good here, even at my age. But he's like learned from that. He's overcome adversity. He's fought, good guys on the way up. I think this fight, despite its 5 rounds, I think it could go the distance. I really believe that because Dariush is not, other than the way to beat Dariush, there's 2 ways you beat Dariush. It's you flurry him early and you take him out. And Islam certainly did that with Dan Hooker, but that was more of a submission thing as opposed to him like, knocking him down or whatever. I don't think that happens against Dariush. So I think Dariush could survive. And I think he's got the cardio to go 5 rounds. This is a Rafael Cordero trained lightweight. He's going to be prepared for every situation. I could see a scenario where it goes the distance. Now, as far as the line and everything, I do like Makhachev, but I think it'll be later if he does finish him or it'll be a decision. But I think you can't count out Dariush in this fight whatsoever.
I think we're watching the best version of Dariush. This is the prime Dariush, but Makhachev, I don't think that's the best version of Makhachev. And I feel that that's going to be something that we got to look at more deeply when we do break down this fight. But right now, Dariush, I don't think he gets finished early. I agree with you. I think he's a dog, man. The guy can come back from anything. And Makhachev's going to put him in danger. But I think Dariush on the ground, he's a little bit more slick. I think that he could probably lock up some submissions against Makhachev, off his back. Yeah. I think he's that good on the ground. It's hard to say, but early pick, I'll take Makhachev, man. Like you said, late in the fight or just a decision. I think Dariush can last.
Could Cody get cut if he loses to Kai Kara France? Absolutely not. He's a former champion. He's also a guy that's pretty popular. I know he's been on a bit of a skid, but the UFC will get every last ounce they can out of Cody Garbrandt. He's got a pretty big following on social media. Those are things that usually give you a little bit more leash. Look, if Sam Alvey can lose how many fights in a row and still stay on the roster, a guy like Cody Garbrandt should be able to as well. So he won't get cut.
It's hard to imagine Cody Garbrandt fighting for another promotion, to be honest with you, right? Even if he loses his flyweight debut, gets knocked out, I think Cody, he comes back at bantamweight. If he loses, I don't think he stays at flyweight. I think he goes back to bantamweight.
He'll probably go back
fight
up,
somebody. I would love to see, if he loses, I would love to see him go back up and fight Sean O'Malley, to be honest with you.
Or Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, that too.
That'd be a good rematch, right?
Yeah.
What's up, Noah? Always appreciate the support, buddy. Thanks so much. Do you take Ponzinibbio over Neal? No, I like Neal in that fight. And Neal's had some health issues. I think he's had the right amount of time off now. You know, when I spoke to him when this fight was announced, he talked about how he just needed a break. He went on vacation. He didn't do any training. I think a lot of it was just, him burning himself out and coming back too soon. And look who he fought. I mean, the Magny fight, that's probably one he would have liked back, but you lose to Thompson, big deal. Vicente Luque was just a backup for the title fight loss to Thompson not that long ago. So I think Neal, just the upsides there. I know he's not that much younger than Ponzinibbio, but Ponzinibbio's had some really bad health issues, long layoffs, long gaps. Neal should win. And if Neal doesn't win, then maybe this is a guy that maybe his health issues have sort of taken his career away, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. But I would have to take Neal just because of the power and some of the quality wins he's had recently as well, too. So,
yeah, both guys had like health issues, right? So they have something in common. But when I look at them and where they're at in their career and their recent performances, I have to take Neal over Ponzinibbio. I think Neal cracks much harder and his striking is a little bit more crisp.
West Coast says, I hope Thompson beats Belal. Okay. I want to hear the reason why. Who should be next for Sean O'Malley after Paiva? People are saying Adrian Yanez. I don't think that fight happens. I just don't see the upside for O'Malley other than it's a fun fight. My theory is, and I could be wrong about this, I think O'Malley's going to wait to see how Dominic Cruz looks against Pedro Munoz. If Cruz sneaks by Munoz like he did against Casey Kenny, I think maybe he looks at that fight and says, you know what? I'll take that. He's a legend. He's a guy that I can go take out. It's going to look good on the resume. Then I'll shut up all these haters. I think maybe that's the type of fight he's looking at. Like someone with a name, I think would make sense.
Yeah,
that's beatable. Even Edgar, exactly. Even Frankie Edgar would be one I think he'd be looking at as well.
He's looking at the least risk and most reward, right? In that top 15. And you got Edgar, like you said, you got Cruz, and even Sunsao is an option. He's number 12 in the rankings. So that's actually a good matchup for O'Malley.
Max always says Belal is the most average fighter ever. He's a guy that gets it done. He kind of reminds me of a little bit Dan Ige, in the sense that he works really hard. He doesn't have any athletic gifts per se, but he gets the job done most of the time. But then when he gets that step up, it's that's where you kind of see that you need that extra little bit of talent to kind of move ahead, right? So we'll see. Again, great opportunity here for Belal to prove us all wrong and end his year strong and go into 2022 being a contender. But I have my doubts, but we'll see. Bully is well-rounded. Is Belal's best chance to enter the top five than any other potential matchup? Yes. Is this a must-win? It's a must-win in the sense of if he wants to be a contender at 33, you don't get many other opportunities like this. So I would agree with that. No way Belal's getting finished. It's definitely going to decision either way. We'll see. I mean, it's been a while since Thompson's finished an opponent, but this is by far nothing against Belal. But again, I want to preface this. This is probably his easiest matchup since maybe the Pettis fight, I would think. So you got to look at that too. I think it's safe to say that Hamzat fights for the belt in 2022. Probably. I would think so.
By the end, yeah. By the end.
Yeah, I think so. Belal showed off his wrestling defense against Maia. Against Edwards, striking seemed to be his trouble prior to the eye poke. Wonderboy had trouble on the ground. Game of Burns, we know his game. Again, though, I don't think Belal is the type of wrestler that Burns is. Belal's not in there with some of the guys that are at Sanford MMA. He's with guys that just not of the same caliber of training partner. I think Burns has had. Think how long Burns has been at the Black Zillion / Sanford / Hard Knocks. He's been there forever. And look who's there. Who's one of his main training partners? Here's a guy that people forget about that he trains with all the time. Logan Storley. Do you remember him in Bellator? He's one of the best wrestlers on the Bellator roster, comes from a wrestling background. You're in the gym there every day with a guy like that. You're only going to get better. Belal doesn't have that really. So, and then you've seen the improvements. And that's why Gilbert was able to do what Johnny Hendricks should have done years ago when he fought Belal or fought Thompson and wasn't able to do it. So,
yeah. And also Gilbert Burns, his coach or his training partner is Wagner Rocha, probably one of the best grapplers in the world, you know what I mean? And he trains with him every day. I don't know if Belal has that level of like grappler around him. Maybe he does. I have no idea.
Antoine is the John Morgan of the All-Star. That he is. I just needs to get a blue shirt. Is Khabib the Karen of MMA? No. I mean,
man.
Come on. I don't want to go there. Come on. If you say anything remotely negative about Khabib, Khamzat Chimaev, or Islam, that's turned into you hate them. And I went on a rant on my channel. I don't usually respond to stuff like this, but I got fed up. It was a Saturday. I wasn't feeling well. I was like, screw this. I'm going to say my 2 cents. And it's like, people got to understand, just because you pick against a fighter or you think a certain fighter can win, that doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't. Like, I mean, unless you're going out of your way saying this guy sucks or whatever, you got to listen to the language. Just because someone picks a fighter doesn't mean they hate them. There's this sensitivity towards certain fighters that I just don't get. So just wanted to do that.
I don't think we pick off emotion either. You know what I mean? That's not what we do here.
No, I don't have biases, or at least I try not to have them. Belal is likely going to have to walk through fire and try and show his offensive wrestling if he wants to find success against Wonderboy. I would agree with that. Yeah. Colby Mossville has to happen. I agree. Connor's the Karen of MMA. Again, we're not going to debate who the Karen of MMA is here for the sake of not getting anyone in trouble. What do you both make of Paddy Pimblett saying Khamzat has all the fight when he only has one fight in the UFC? You're falling for the bait. It's no different than when Colby says like he beat Usman and then people are like, I can't believe he said that. Well, of course he did, because he's playing a character. Paddy is he's a very smart businessman. He's the only fighter to sign to Barstool Sports, which is one of the biggest digital media empires out there. The guy knows what he's doing in terms of like putting his names in headlines. Sean O'Malley's good at this too, right? Adrian Yanez wins a fight. O'Malley throws it out there. I don't think they ever fight, but look at all the articles that were written because of that. These guys know what they're doing here. Pimblett's no different. Of course, he's going to say that. He's already has fans who hate him because of some of the stuff he said about Khabib and some of the other things. And I know there's some stuff Paddy said that's crossed the line, and we're not going to get into that. We went through this last week with Cody Durden. Yeah, I don't. Look, Khamzat Chimaev beat a pretty like solid ranked fighter, not a top ranked fighter, but a ranked fighter in Li Jingliang. He finished him very quickly. Neil Magny wasn't able to do that. There's been a lot of other fighters who fought Li Jingliang and not had the same success. So that's a good win. It's not a contender's win, but it's the type of win where at least it caught people's attention. I think we need to see Khamzat tested. I think that's the big thing. Kind of like with Islam, right? Like where he beat, Thiago Moises, which was great, but then when he fought Hooker, that was the real test. So we need to see that from Khamzat. So no, Pimblett's not correct in that regard, especially for a guy who struggled in his debut. Like, let's call it what it is, right?
Yeah, why do you think Barstool signed him? Because he's gonna be able to troll everybody, and that's what he's gonna do. You know what I mean? So don't fall for it. That's the thing.
Mahashev 4th round submission could happen. There you go. Have you looked closer at Alvarez and Arman yet? I think you asked me this yesterday, and the fight was announced yesterday. So the answer is no. I haven't looked closer at it because I haven't had time. I had a couple interviews yesterday, including one with Mickey Gall, which will should be out later today on MMA News. He fights Alex Morono this Saturday. We're doing a thing. It seems like every interview he gets his haircut and we do the interview. So Mickey's not wearing a shirt. Not my choice, but it's what Mickey likes doing. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great fight. Also, I did notice, I don't know if you saw this on Instagram, that Arman did sign a new contract. That was something that's new. So good for the UFC and investing in him. I'll go Arman just because I like Arman. I think Joel Alvarez has problems making weight. I think we've seen that time and time again. Great win over Thiago Moises. He's not going to be able to do that to Arman. Arman's I think there's a lot more upside with Arman at this point in his career than Thiago Moises is at this point, unfortunately, because we've seen Moises lose fights, get finished. They're teammates actually, which is interesting, right? They both train at ATT. I'll pick Arman, but that is a fight that we will probably break down here because it's a very interesting fight in that weight class. What do you think of that potential matchup? Or it's not potential, it's happening.
Early pick, of course, Arman. I just think he just has the all-around skill set, but what do you think about Joel Alvarez missing weight every single fight and then still being ranked number 15?
He should have to. Yeah, I think you shouldn't be rewarded for that. If you miss weight, that's about as bad as it gets. So I think he should have had to take a welterweight fight, to be honest. And then once you do that fight, then you can move back down because they've done it with other fighters. They did it to Gaslam. There's a few other fighters that they've made that happen to. So. And that's what I think about that. Thoughts on Corey versus Jan? I felt like Corey kind of figured out a weakness in Jan with the grappling of the hands and the guard, but others try to wrestle him too much. Thoughts? I mean, we talked about this fight already. It's a couple months removed, or I should say a month removed. Yeah, I mean, I just think Petr Yan's just very good. And I think a lot of bantamweights are going to have trouble with him. I think I think guys like Sterling and Dillashaw are probably the only ones that I think have a shot at him right now. I don't think there's anyone else, including Aldo, who's fighting this weekend. And we will do our underdog picks a little bit later in the show. But I just think Corey has the ability to go back and fix some things and get better. And maybe down the line, we could see that rematch. But I think right now it's going to be very tough to solve that puzzle that is Petr Yan. What do you think?
I think Jan, he probably watched that fight again and looked at the weakness. Whatever you're pointing out, he probably saw that and said, okay, I gotta fix that. I think that's the type of fighter Jan is. Jan's always focused on getting better after every fight, looking back, dissecting it, and then improving. So when we go out there, or when he goes out there, when he goes out there, he's just gonna be a better version of himself. And we've seen that time and time again. I don't know. It's hard to say who's able to beat Jan. But there's guys that have the skill set, like you said, like Sterling. He does if he goes in there with the right game plan. And it seems like Sterling's not training in Vegas anymore, even though he lives there. He's back in New York, right, with Sarah Longo.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reason for that is. Maybe he's not getting to do. Maybe it's just like seeing family. I mean, we just had Thanksgiving, right? So that could be part of it as well. I don't know. I'm going to try and get something with Sterling. It's been a bit since I've had a chance to interview with him, so I will reach out again. But as manager's not being very responsive these days, so I'll do my best. We'll see what happens. Your thoughts on Khabib saying that Beneil? Oh, by the way, good to hear from you, Roman. Roman, by the way, I know I mentioned this every week. I did reach out again to Rakic's manager. He's been ghosting me. I'm doing my best. I want to get something with Rakic, especially with the fact that Jan Blachowicz was on the MMA Hour yesterday. I'd love to hear from him. We really haven't heard much from him, I think, since Ariel interviewed him. So I would like to get an update on him as well. But yeah, I'm doing my best to try and get a hold of Rakic and see if we can get something done. So just letting you know I'm doing that. Also, reach out to Yuri Prohaska. Yuri's kind of taking some time off interviews from what my understanding is right now. So I think, because I wanted to get his thoughts on the Glover fight and see when he wants to come back. And he basically just told me like there isn't much to talk about. Like, he thought Glover's performance was good. He, I think, wants to wait until there's a fight book for him. So if anyone's asking, Yuri interview not going to happen anytime soon, because I spoke to him over the weekend. And yeah, same thing with Rakic. But the comment about Khabib saying Beneil and Nizam's are levels above Gaethje. So was that, I'm assuming that's in the ESPN interview. I didn't watch that. If there's anything that's said on Twitter, just assume that it's probably his manager doing that. But yeah, as far as I don't know, I think anyone in the top 5 could beat anyone at any point. That's I've always felt that way. So I don't think one is better than the other.
I think Khabib's just hyping his guy. You know what I mean? Because his guy is fighting Beneil. So of course you're gonna say the guy is levels above the other guys that that Khabib already beat. You know what I mean? Why would you say anything else? You know what I mean? That's Khabib. Yeah. Khabib is now turned into a manager himself. He's a coach. Yeah. So of course you're going to hype your guy. You know what I mean? That's what you would do. If I was a coach, I'll be hyping my guy and whoever he's fighting rather than the other guys that are in line for the title. It's just common sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't really talk about Prospect being the next champ until they fight a ranked opponent, but Joel is really effing good. I believe he has the potential to beat anyone if it has a good weight cut. See, I'm still not there yet. I mean, that was a great win over Thiago Moises. We haven't seen anyone do that to Thiago yet. I still reserve until we see, because who else had good performances like that early on in their career? Johnny Walker. I mean, come on, and Walker was doing things that we haven't seen guys do in the cage, but once he gets a step up, we see what happens. So I'm going to reserve judgment. I think the Arman fight's a great test for him. I think Arman's in a similar boat where it's like, how good is he really? So I know some people might not like the matchmaking there, but I don't mind it. I think it's fine. And what's going on with Gregor Gillespie, by the way? Like, is he just seems like he just wins a fight and then he disappears for a while. He's a guy I should reach out to and maybe see if I can get something with him. I do have his number. He's just a tough guy to get a hold of, but definitely, I'm going to reserve judgment on Joel Alvarez.
Yeah, tried to get him a few times and it just didn't work out. But I think you got to put an asterisk next to his wins, man, because he missed weight. Like if you miss weight, it doesn't count it's a win, but it doesn't count as a win for the division. You know what I mean? It's just you went in there and you didn't cut as much weight as the other guy. Yeah, he has great performances, but we still, like you said, we still need to see more from Alvarez, and this fight is going to show something.
Props and John and James for the great predictions. Appreciate you guys watching. Again, hit that like button if you can. They got rid of the dislike button, by the way. I know they did it in the US and then it just came to Canada now. They got rid of it. I have mixed opinions on that. I obviously don't like it when I start a stream and there's 4 dislikes before I even start. I mean, there's some people who obviously just don't like hate followers is what I call them. And I'm sure you get these people too that watch your content and then they just want to nitpick at it because for a variety of reasons, I don't know why that is. But at the same time, I feel like you got to put all your cards on the table. If there's content that you don't like or there's something you don't like, we should be able to hear about that. I know that's why you have comments, but I don't know. You maybe just get rid of the button altogether and just do a like button, or I don't know. It just seems like kind of weird that they're doing that. But
if you have two, buddy, you could see who dislikes your
well, and you could see it in the back end as well on your videos, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
so there you
go. Well, Lucas was saying that. I think he tweeted something out about a guy that always comes on every video that he has and just dissects all the questions, and you just gotta go
Some
with
of
the
it can
flow,
be
man.
good, but it's no different than me walking into a surgeon's table and saying, "Hey, you should be doing this." Like, I have no experience. How's that any different than someone on YouTube making a comment? Like, you got to remember that feedback's good, but don't take it too much to heart, because a lot of the people that comment on content have absolutely no idea what views well, what doesn't, what's good content, what isn't. Just always keep that in mind. I made a mistake yesterday when I was doing my Rob Font breakdown about the Aldo fight, saying this was his first main event. I forgot the Cody fight was the main event as well.
Yeah.
The amount of comments I got from people as I corrected myself like a few minutes after was just staggering. It's like, you don't need to tell me that. Like, obviously you're saying this because like you're not doing it to help me out. You're doing it because you want to be like, see, I know more than you. And it's like, you don't have to be like that. It's stupid. So anyways, I hope you don't have issues with the manager like you have with you know who. No, there's no issues with this manager. He's just tough to get a hold of. John knows this. There's certain managers that are just like really tough to get a hold of. I'm having an issue right now with Cyril Gahn's manager. He just won't get back to me. Again, like for what it's worth, Roman, Rakic's manager, we're still friends on Facebook. There's no issue there. I just think he's busy. It happens. So we've had this with even one of our favorite managers who I won't mention here, John, who uses Google Calendar. You know which one I'm talking about there. He's even tough to get a hold of. And you and I both did an interview with one of their fighters where we had to go direct, right? So it happens.
Yeah.
Jan impressed me a lot in the Corey fight. I think TJ has a chance against Jan. TJ had 2-year layoff and one eye, and one, the reach of Corey gave trouble. Exactly. I think Dillashaw, there's still some talent there. I think there maybe is some truth to the whole, maybe he wasn't on steroids his whole career thing, just with the way he looked against Corey. So we'll see. But again, he's older. He's taken a lot of damage. He's had a lot of recovery. Is that going to be enough to beat a Piotr Jan? I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I like TJ. He's one of my favorite style fighters, and so is Jan. So that's a matchup made in heaven for me as a spectator, as a fan. So I want that fight.
Are you guys a fan of the Boxer versus MMA Triller stuff? I didn't watch it. I'll be honest.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, I saw you live tweeting it. I just, you know what? I wanted the break off this weekend, and I feel like this kind of was just promoted at the last minute. Like I kind of even forgot it was all happening. And yeah, I mean, good for them for trying something different. I think if you're going to compete with the UFC, or at least attempt to, you need to do stuff like this. So I don't mind it. It sounds like Frank Mir got paid some pretty good money for losing. Which I was amazed at how little he got paid for the Brock Lesnar fight. That sort of came out this week too. The first Brock Lesnar, or the second Brock Lesnar fight at UFC 100. So yeah, good for these guys if they're getting paid. That's all I got to say. All right, James, not seen one of your lives in months due to work. I don't know what you mean by lives. Your interview with Colby seemed like the real Colby. Do you think he's bored of putting on the character all the time? No, he still put the character on in the interview. Like him saying he didn't lose, calling Usman a cheater, all this stuff. That's all part of the character. I've always said this. I've never had an issue with Colby. Off camera, he's been great to me. He's easy to book interviews with. That's all I want. I mean, there's some fighters that would surprise you about how difficult they are just to book a simple interview with them, whether it's through their management or whatever. Yeah, I think Colby's par for the course. I don't think there's anything different.
Yeah, I think he's tweaked his little character that he has, right? And he's changed, and he's a little bit more calmer and more calculated, I think, with what he says.
What else do we got here? Who should Rockhold's comeback fight be since Strickland didn't happen, or could that fight? I don't think Rockhold fights again. I'm just going to say it right now. I don't think he fights again. I think that injury. Yeah, I think that injury was a sign that age is catching up to him. I don't think there's a fight that interests him. I think the Strickland thing was more about fighting in New York than it was necessarily him fighting Strickland. I'm calling it right now, guys. I don't think Rockhold fights again. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I was also wrong that I thought they would never book Masvidal and Leon Edwards, and they attempted to. So there we go. Take that for what it's worth. How did Triller agree to put that main event on? It was never going to end well. I'll have to ask them. I don't know. It's like bare knuckle. They do some weird stuff too. Don't ask me about that. I don't know. It shows the dislike on here. The leftists get more dislikes than, and you know you can't have that. Anyways, we're not going to get into politics here, people. But I think they should keep the like and dislike thing. Personally, I think that's something that, just because, you know, we got to be honest here. There's a lot of idiots out there, but still, I don't like censoring people. That's kind of what they're doing there. Do you guys think you have any idea why Astrov was passed over for the flyweight title? Is it a draw thing? Does he have a tie with the champ?
He's injured, right?
Well, he's injured and he missed weight in his last fight. Everyone forgets that. He missed weight. You can't get a title shot if you miss weight. At least I don't know anyone who's done that. So that's why I don't know what's going on here. There's him. There's Pantoja, who has a win over the current champ. So there's a lot of options outside of the flyweight title fight, which is happening in January.
Yeah, like there's the winner of the Cody Garbrandt Kai Kara France fight. That could be the next title challenger too. So, you know, there are some options. Pantoja was injured. Askarov is injured. So it leaves a lot of room for the guys that are there hanging around the top 10 to take advantage.
Does the beat ever return? Would love to find out. Would love to get an interview with that guy, but that's very hard. Maybe I should try and get a hold of Mark Henry and see if he'll spill the beans, because he announced what was like a month or two ago that Zabit's coming back, but I've heard nothing since then. Guy's wasting away the prime years of his career. I know he's had some health issues, but still, the timing of this couldn't be worse. This is a guy that has been told, we've been told forever, kind of like Islam, that this guy's going to be a future champ. We haven't seen that yet. He beat Calvin Kattar. I'll give him that. That was a good win. Curious how that would have gone if it was 5 rounds, but still, yeah, we gotta see him fight more.
Yeah, I did an interview with Mobzar Evloev, right, the featherweight, earlier this year, and he was with Zabit at that time. Like, they were gonna go meet Zabit, and they were gonna do something with Zabit in I think Kazakhstan or something like that. And he was saying that Zabit's gonna come back. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's just taking care of some injuries. You know, they got a hospital out there taking care of him. So hopefully we do see him early next year. I'm crossing my fingers. We need Zabit in that featherweight division.
Yeah, and then you had Dan Hooker in the mix. I mean, it'd be very interesting to see how that sort of unfolds in terms of what could happen there. Someone is pointing out in the chat. Roman, I'll get to your question after, but you all got a title shot after missing weight to Rockhold, I believe. You are right about that, actually.
That's right.
So yeah, he came in at 187, and then they gave Whitaker. I think that was more that they didn't have any other options. At least at flyweight, they do have options, so maybe that's the difference. I don't know. Do you think Figgy should move up? If he loses, absolutely should move up. I think it's a tough cut regardless. He's too big for the weight class.
Yeah, and fight Garbrandt.
Till got a title shot after missing weight to Wonderboy. Okay, there has been a few other examples, but I know that's part of it, especially in a division that they really don't seem to care that much about. I think any excuse they can do to not give a guy, like if it was Cody Garbrandt who missed weight, they're probably waiving that, but it's Astrov. I don't think the casual fan.
Exactly. And you look at it, you guys make point. Till and Yoel, 2 guys that they want to put in title fights, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big thing as well. Does Moreno finish Figueroa again? I think so. I think he has his number. I think he showed that in the last fight.
If he weathers the storm. He weathers the storm. I think that's the fight's going to go exactly the same. Fig's going to come out in the first 2 rounds, guns blazing. If he doesn't finish the fight, then Brendan's going to take over and win the fight.
Let's do our. I know we're doing this a little bit early here, but let's do our underdog picks. Also, we have Bellator this week as well, which is going to be interesting here. So let me we'll get to our underdog picks. There's a lot of underdogs I like this weekend, John. I'm going to go through all of them here. I want to get your thoughts on this. Okay, so we'll go with the UFC. Start with the first underdog I like. First underdog I like on this card is, where are we here? I like Maki Pitolo at plus 140 against Dusko Todorovic. I don't know why they don't have the C on the end of his name here. Maki's back's against the wall, as is Dusko as well. He's lost a few in a row. Pitolo was winning that fight against Julian Marquez. We watched that fight. He was winning the fight, gassed out. Marquez took advantage, got the finish. But Maki was on his way to winning a decision in that fight. He's got tons of power in his hands. He's called coconut bombs. We've seen Dusko, when he gets rocked, it seems like he just, kind of reverts the game plan a little bit. Maki's got a teammate in Puna Soriano who showed that. He was able to finish Dusko quite early. Another Hawaiian as well. I think I give Maki a puncher's chance in this one at plus 140. I know he's lost 3 in a row, but I think especially his last fight, like he was in that fight. It wasn't a case of him like being completely outclassed. He looked pretty good. So he's a guy I like. As far as an underdog, I like Jamal Hill against Jimmy Crute. I think Jamal Hill, if he keeps it standing, I think that power and his speed could be the difference against Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute's one of those kind of wild cards for me because like there's some fights like the Modestas fight where he looks amazing. The Mihail Oleksiejczuk fight, he looked really good in that as well. The Smith fight, you can't take anything away. He got injured in that one. The Misha Cirkunov fight is just such a weird loss to have looking back now and how bad Misha's done after that. So I'll take my chances. I think that's a 50-50 fight. I'll take some dog money on Jamal Hill. And then the last dog I like is Jose Aldo. I talked about this on this very program here. I still think that Aldo can get it done. I think with the 5-round experience, the fact that he's fought more in the 5 rounds, the fact that he's still getting big wins at his age, and the age gap's not much of a difference. Aldo's got way more experience. He's fought better guys. Rob Font, the 2 guys that he's beat recently, one is Cody Garbrandt, who's not in the weight class anymore. The other guy's Marlon Moraes, who's, let's be honest, has fallen off a cliff since fighting for the title. So I'd rather put my stock in a guy like Aldo, who has quality wins, who's been there with some of the best, and even at his age can still get it done and still went 4 rounds with the champ, right? Like I know that's a fight that could have been stopped a little bit earlier, but still the fact that Aldo was hanging in there with Petr Yan, I think is a great opportunity for him to get it done. So I think Aldo at plus 120 is a great bet too. So those are 3 underdogs I like, giving you a little extra value here on the Fantasy Fanatics MMA podcast. Any dogs that you're looking at or any ones that I picked that you like?
I agree with you on the Aldo. I think that is a lot of good value. Also Jamal Hill. I think Jamal Hill, I think that line is wrong, completely wrong. I'll take that underdog. But an underdog that I would like to take in this is Mallory Martin versus Cheyenne, not Bays anymore,
Yeah.
right? She seems
Listmas, yeah.
like she changed her name. Something's going on there. We don't know for sure. But I think Mallory Martin, her skill set of being able to take girls down and pound them out, I think that's what's going to happen in that fight. I'll take her as the underdog in that fight.
That's another close fight. The thing I like about
Mhm.
that fight is that it's finally a fight between two fighters who are around the same size. Like if you look at the height and reach, even the age, they're pretty similar in that regard. I like Cheyenne being back at Extreme. I think she's getting better looks over there with some of the women that train over there. We'll see. That's a 50-50 fight. But again, kind of like the Hill and Crute fight, I think you could see some value on the underdog as well.
And Jeremiah Wells too. He's the underdog going in against Jake Matthews. I think Jeremiah Wells has a
Yeah.
good skill set and the power to go in there and maybe finish the fight early against Matthews.
Yeah, that could happen. So there you go. We like a couple underdogs on this card. So just keep that in mind and let us know what you guys think on social media if you agree, or let us know in the chat here. Let's get to some more questions here. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about Bellator as well. I'll just do my quick picks. I did a full preview on my Patreon. If anyone's interested. Horiguchi at -165 is not bad. I know he's been off for a while, but I mean, we're talking about Horiguchi, the guy that literally lost at the last second to Demetrius Johnson, who's been in there with some of the best. I know Pettis is the champ, and typically you don't go against the champ at all. I think Horiguchi wins that. Unfortunate that JJ Wilson fights off. What was another one I was looking at? Josh Hill only being -120 against Jared Scoggins is a bit crazy to me too, because Hill's pretty solid, good wrestling. He was at Team Alpha Male for this camp. He's one I was looking at. And I don't know about you. And again, I love the guy and wish I could interview him, but I can't because of his manager. I think Emmanuel Sanchez beats Jeremy Kennedy, no problem. I am shocked that Jeremy's taking this fight, considering that he lost his last one. I think Sanchez is he's still got it. He's a guy that, I mean, let's not forget, not that long ago had a pretty close fight with Pitbull. The first fight, the second fight obviously didn't go his way, but I think Sanchez has still got it. Gritty guy, tough to put away. Kennedy's not that guy who's going to get in your face and get a quick finish, and Sanchez is extremely durable. If it goes in the later rounds, I could see Sanchez stealing that. I know he is the favorite, but I think that line could be even higher, to be honest. So what are you looking at for Bellator?
I love Johnny Eblin, but -1,000.
Oh, crazy. Take the inside the distance.
Yeah, that's insane. Colin Huckbody is a very good fighter. He might be making his Bellator debut against a ranked, middleweight, but still, man, I think that has some value. I'll throw some money on Colin Huckbody just because he's +650. That's crazy, right? And who else? I think John DeSuze might have a good chance against Kai Kamaka, man. I think and John DeSuze, he went to Factory X for this. I interviewed him. He went to Factory X for this camp. Particularly.
Oh, did he? Interesting.
Yeah, and he switched it up. Elevation, his cardio is better, he said. So I'm very interested to see what he does with this new training, environment that he has. He trained closely with who was it? Yusuf Zalal and Chris Gutierrez. Those guys are solid training partners. So, and Kai Kamaka is a dog, like he can fight. So they're gonna both meet in the middle and slang. I think DeSuze has some value at +165.
I'm pretty sure DeJesus signed with Iridium, and that makes sense because it seems like Iridium, a lot of them send fighters to Factory X, like Jordan Williams and Alex Hernandez. There's been so many that have gone there.
Wasn't he Ruby before?
No, DeJesus was with Vice Management, which was the guy that used to be with First Round. Do you remember?
Okay.
Do you remember Maurice Blanco? Did you ever do any work with him?
No.
Kind of telling you some inside secrets. So he was this manager with First Round, and he had this notorious reputation for messaging all these fighters and trying to poach fighters from other managements. And remember, Daniel Rubenstein called him out on that. I don't remember this years ago. And and then he just kind of fizzled away, and he started some management group called like Vice Management Group, which is like a Miami-based group. And I remember because he pitched me John DeJesus a few years ago, and I did an interview with him. And actually, no, I'm getting him mixed up with someone else. DeJesus was with. No, I was getting him mixed up with another client from that. Completely forget about that story. That okay. I got that mixed up. But DeJesus was with someone else. Oh, you know what? It might have been. He used to train in New York, right? Maybe he was Ruby. I don't know. I'll have to look back. But anyways,
but there's another interesting fight that I think is like under the radar is Dan Moret versus Spike Carl. I think that's a good fight.
I like Dan Moret at +125 in that fight. Have you seen Dan Moret like on Instagram? He's super fit now. Like he changed up something in his training, and he's one of those fight ready guys. look great. Spike Carlisle, I know people liked him in the UFC, but Dan Moret has really turned things around. Big win in his last fight, right? He was a huge underdog and got it done. So Dan Moret at plus 125 is interesting too. Anyways, spending way too much time here on Bellator. Let's get a few more questions and then we'll wrap things up, everyone. Again, download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. Does Henry Cejudo match up with Volk well? No, I think Volk beats him. Henry's been off forever. Volk's at the highest level of his game right now. I think Volk takes him out, no problem. Maybe not no problem, but he gets the win for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if it'd be like a real shock to me if they actually put that fight together.
Yeah, I don't think it happens.
Shock. Yeah.
After hearing your experience, Lynch, I'm going to continue to make more content. That's great. Also, we saw Alex Pereira, good performance. Do you think he'll be talented enough to climb the middle? Too early to say with Pereira. He didn't look amazing in that fight. He got the finish, but he needs some work. He's got, again, another guy you got to slowly build up in that weight class if they want to eventually do that. On Adesanya fight, my beef isn't credibility and authenticity. It's just my own dissatisfaction in my audience participation. Building an audience takes time. That's why you got to do live streams. That's why you got to do stuff like this and appear on other podcasts. Yeah. You know how many podcasts I've done over the years? Other people's podcasts are like, free stuff, basically. Like, you got to do that. It's an investment to build up your brand. There's plenty of stuff I've done for free that I wasn't compensated for, but you got to do that to build up your brand. It takes time. Building an audience is not easy to do.
I don't really do podcasts, but this week I have a podcast scheduled, or it's not even a podcast. I think it's like an interview with somebody from CBS, like CBS Sports. Nice. Yeah, they reached out. I don't even know how they know who I am, but luckily, and like if you work, those opportunities will come to you. You know what I mean? You might not expect it, but it's going to come. So keep doing what you're doing, man, and just pump out content and get better at it. That's all that you can do.
I already locked in a bet at Aldo. There you go. Same better odds Aldo. A lot of people like an Aldo here. Final question for me. Does Korean Zombie find success at 155?
No.
I'll say at his age, no. If he was younger, didn't have as much.
His shoulders jacked up again. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
His shoulders jacked up, the same one that separated in the Aldo fight that he had surgery on years ago. It's jacked up again. The UFC is telling him he should take stem cell surgery. He went to the doctors. The doctor said you need not stem cell surgery, stem cells therapy. The doctors are saying you need surgery. If you get surgery, you're out for a year. His career is over if he gets surgery, right? Another year away, from the sport, and then try to come back against one of the top guys in the division. It's going to be too tough, man. I hope he gets the stem cell and then, he could come back quicker, but I doubt it.
Let's take just 3 more questions, everyone. Again, appreciate you tuning in here. It's been a really fun chat here today. And as always, you can go back and watch our breakdowns. We do the breakdown first, the Q&A after. This is the Fantasy Fanatics MMA podcast. What else do we got? Bueller. Do we got to do Bueller here today? And see if we can get any more questions here. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we get out of here, John? Anything you got coming up interview-wise that you want to plug? We mentioned Volkanovski already.
I put up a tweet, right? And I said, like, Frank
the Mayweather thing. I saw that.
Yeah. And it was a question. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I
can't do that. So people are going to come after you.
No, but the thing is, I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to get interactions. And even Kavanaugh responded to the tweet.
Oh, did he?
And he kind of got trolled, by that question, because he thinks it's a statement. It's not a statement. It's a question. What's the difference? And because I mentioned McGregor, he came at, and then, dude, some of those guys went hard on Kavanaugh, like bringing up his tweet about the 1-2 combination, like you're the worst coach in the, like, come on, you don't have to go that hard on Kavanaugh, man. The dude.
It's the passionate fan base. It's Conor fans, Habib fans. They're all like out for blood, man. That's just how it goes. So, all right, good time to wrap up the show, everyone. We'll dart out of here a little bit early. JHK, where can they get a hold of you on social media? What do you got coming out this week? Let's get the rundown here for the rest of the week.
JHK MMA. You see it on the bottom of the screen. Right now, I just uploaded interviews with Tony Kelly. He fights at UFC 269. Eric Anders, Volkanovski, like you mentioned earlier. William Knight, he fights this weekend. Kyoji Horiguchi, who also fights this weekend for the title against Sergio Pettis. Luis Smoka, Jeremy Kennedy. And then later on this week, I will have an interview with Mohamed Makaev coming out, and a bunch more, man, in the works.
UFC Vegas 44, I got you covered. Interviews with Rob Font, Rafael Fiziev, Brendan Allen, although that was when he was fighting Dolidze, Claudio Puelles, Jamal Hill, and I'll have interviews with Alex Morono and Mickey Gall coming out later today as well. Also interviewed Colby Covington last week, I'm sure most of you know, and I got another former UFC champion I'm going to be interviewing tomorrow, so keep your eyes out for that. Also join me every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm starting something new, doing this Twitter Spaces thing. It's like news updates every morning. You can join in, you can ask questions with my man Tajik. I believe that's how you say it. We just do a show, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just on Twitter Spaces, just talking there. So tune in for that. Also, make sure you tune into my Q&A every Thursday on my second channel, youtube.com/LynchMMA. That is where I do my MMA Q&A. So if you have any questions here that didn't get answered, you can ask them over there as well. What else do we got? That's pretty much it for me. We'll be back next week previewing another upcoming notable fight. If you guys have any suggestions for fights you want us to preview, just let us know. Hit us up on social media. Both very accessible. Other than that, hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night or wherever you are, and we'll see you next week.